Amy, you with us?
I'm with you.
So thank you everybody for being here. This is we're calling it a town hall, and we can kind of get into what that means in a little bit, but I thought it'd be good if we start with prayer. If we could just think of one person in our lives that needs our prayers, if we could call that person to mind, and just take a moment of silence before we begin and have our prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So, Almighty God, we come before you tonight. We thank you for the blessings that you give us of faith and family and friendship as we gather together tonight in this town hall Zoom meeting. We thank you for all the great graces that are in our lives and the people that make our lives so much more meaningful. We thank you for the gift of the church and the sacraments and all those people that serve the church. And so in this month of May, we take a moment to pray together a Hail Mary, recognizing the Blessed Mother as the paradigm of discipleship. And so we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace,
the Lord is with thee.
Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. So as we begin, everybody knows me. I'm on the call with Dave Nesbitt and Amy, and Meg Castellini is kind of coordinating this for us. So thank you, Meg, for doing it. But I'm going to turn it over to Dave and to Amy just to introduce for them to introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they do at the parish that brings them on the phone call or the Zoom.
David Nesbitt. I'm serving. I forgot how many terms on pastoral council. So that's me. Been at St. Mary's for about 16 years. So yeah.
16 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Amy?
I'm Amy Casper. I'm the pastoral associate at St. Mary's. I do a little bit of everything from scheduling ministers to budgeting to whatever's on Father's list of things to do sometimes. Been at St. Mary's most of my life. I was born and raised here, left as an adult, and have been back to the parish for the last 13 years.
Sorry, and that's Bruno. He's not going to participate in the Zoom call. So let's start with the purpose of tonight. So the purpose tonight, we're calling it a town hall, but really what it is, it's just an occasion for us to connect with people on a different platform, a different vehicle, as you might say, to share a little bit about where we are as a Catholic parish, what we've been doing, and what we kind of anticipate moving forward. Because I think there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern about when we'll come back to church, and our hope is to have that offer some sense of when that might be. So that's kind of the purpose of the town hall, the Zoom. This is the first one that we've had for the parish. We did one last night for St. Augustine's. We've also had occasions where, Father Lou and I might have had a conversation about something that related to the weekend. You see that sometimes on YouTube, Lou and I having a conversation. But there's also been occasions for adoration, for the Rosary, for Divine Mercy, and before Stations of the Cross. So we are using Zoom to better communicate with our people and to answer questions that the community has. So as we kind of move forward, there's questions that people are texting in and questions that have already been posed. So we're going to do our best to answer those questions. And we recognize that we're not going to get through all the questions. But again, our purpose is to be transparent about where we are as a parish, as a Catholic parish, to communicate all those things that we know that we hear from the diocese. And thirdly, to reinforce that we want to make sure that when we do come back, we do so in the most careful and safe ways. So as we begin, I just wonder if we could ask Dave. So Dave's experience on pastoral council and parish council is really invaluable. And Dave's professional life is that of a physician. So Dave, you can talk about that. But also, if you could just share about your career, your professional career, and your family, because I think a lot of people would resonate with that.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with family. So I have, a lot of you know, I have four kids, 12, 15, 19, and 24. So everybody's home now. So the two older ones are home from college experiences for the past couple of months, doing classes online. And meanwhile, the other kids are fighting for internet access to do classes. So, taking college finals from home. So it's my wife Jody and I, we've really enjoyed them being home, but it adds some extra stress, to the it's just sort of unexpected. But
Dave, they're probably not watching this. You could be honest.
No, they're outside right now playing. So no, it's just even though it's been nice because we've sat down and had dinner more often than we used to. We'd have dinner maybe once a week, and then I'm sorry, together once, maybe twice a week, and now it's a more regular thing. So that's nice, and that's a luxury we didn't have with the older kids. But it adds a level of stress because we're all on our own sort of clock and schedule, and when we feel like doing things and when we feel like doing a dish or leaving it on the counter. So professionally, so I'm a lot of I'm a surgeon by training. So the hospitals, doctors and nurses, for the most part, haven't stopped working. I mean, a lot of doctors' offices and that have, closed temporarily or shut down, or are doing kind of telemedicine type visits. But hospital wise, we haven't. Again, we've slowed down, but we really haven't stopped working because there's still sick people. And the interesting thing is that way back in mid-March, when all this first happened, the hospitals really shut down, and because we were preparing for possible influx of COVID patients, or maybe even transfers from downstate, but none of that ever happened, thankfully. But all the while that's happening, there's still patients who have heart attacks and strokes, and in my world, and infection or cancer, and so we still need to attend to their needs. And then when they come in the hospital, they can't necessarily have visitors. And by the way, those hospital policies change like every couple of days, just like our county and state and national policies are changing so quickly. At the hospital level, the policies change. So sometimes there's been times where they've let visitors in and where they haven't let visitors in. But you think about it, if maybe your spouse is having surgery and you have to drop them off at the door of the hospital and you can't come in, that's pretty disheartening. So the doctors and nurses are great about trying to keep contact and calling. So it's interesting that we now we're however many weeks into this. It's been over 2 months now. So I think the hospitals, I know locally and I think nationally, have been a model for maybe how we can continue to function yet still stay safe, because really there's been a very minimal amount of hospital employees or healthcare workers who have been infected. So I think that's a testimony to our we're not smarter than anybody else. It's just that I think that's a testimony to how the system works, and maybe the rest of society we can assimilate back into church and work and normal life. It'll change, masks and distancing and things like that. But so that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Amy, do you want to share a little bit about Joe and Joe's parents a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we've been, Joe's parents are 91, and we've been very concerned about them, and they're very concerned about being out in public. So they have self-isolated, and it's been a challenge to be able to help them with everything that they need, because as they age, there's more things that they could use our help with, and it's very difficult. It's also kind of weird to be outside the kitchen window and, you know, talking to them just on the other side. But we've really worked at being, you know, safe with them, because we don't want anything to happen to them where they catch this virus because we've transmitted it. They're being very, very, very careful.
So I think that brings us to a really good point that I think it's good for all of us to hear. We're trying to balance what the requirements are, the stipulations are upon us as individuals, and particularly tonight as church, with what we're used to as a family and professionally in our community, but really in a poignant way, what we're used to when it comes to church. And I think for me, that's been the one of the biggest frustrations. You know, in my lifetime, my guess is that for all of us here, we've never had an occasion where someone would say that we can't go to church. You know, especially for over 2 months. You know, and I understand that the requirements and the safety protocols are important, but it doesn't make it any easier. And so I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to get back to church as quickly as possible. And I know that Bishop Lucia wants that to happen as well. And I know he's really working hard to do that. You know, we might not see what the diocese bishop does in the public forum, but rest assured that they're really, they're pushing our civic officials so that we can get back there as soon as possible and make sure that everyone's safe, but get back to what we do, which is to be church and to receive the Eucharist. My guess is that all of us here on the call tonight, and even beyond this, miss receiving Eucharist. And I can certainly share that as well. It's different for me. You know, I still have daily mass and I still offer intentions, but there's no one there. We tape the mass during the week. We offer that online, and then it's on TV on Saturday and Sunday, but it's not the same. And so I think for my point of view and for Father Lou, we're eager to celebrate Eucharist with the community, and we want that to happen as quickly as possible. So I think that having been said, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but there's a couple of things we want to make sure that we articulate about where we are today. The first is to say thank you. We didn't expect the churches to be closed. No one expected the pandemic. And when it hit, we didn't expect it to be as long or as significant as it was. And so that reality, I think, hit all of us like a ton of bricks. And the response from the parish with regards to supporting the parish, not just, you know, spiritually by prayer and, you know, emotionally hoping for better times, but also in a way that was investing in who we are as a mission and ministry. And so your continued investment and donations and contributions help the ministry team to continue to reach out to those people that are in need. You know, we made a decision to keep the ministry team on because their ministry hadn't changed, their service hadn't changed, but it had a different focus. And for all of us, we're very grateful. So I say that on behalf of everyone. So the first is a thank you. Thank you very much. The second is that, you know, whenever we receive information from the diocese, we want to be as transparent as possible. So if you have any questions that, you know, that you think you'd like to offer after tonight, you can text those in tonight if you'd like, but after, if you want to email those in or call those in, our hope is to have an additional town hall in the not so distant future and be able to answer some of those questions if you have those. And the third is to let you know that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we are back in church as quickly and as expeditiously as possible, also being mindful of safety protocols. So I think those things, I hope, kind of color where we are tonight and help us to see maybe where we're going. Amy, did you want to that?
Yeah, just to embellish a little bit on some of the details. So, some of the things that we've been doing, the ministry staff has been doing, is reaching out, hopefully calling all of you. We've had some opportunity to speak with many, many of you, and to understand if there's anything that we can be doing. So, really trying to find the ways to stay in touch, and by calling, that's one method, but we've also been reaching out. There's this has pushed us into finding new methods to communicate, and finding new methods to be able to help the parishioners through, help you all through, and ourselves through what it's like to be a part. So, we've increased our presence in so many ways. You've seen or heard and seen the music videos that Ryan's been doing. We've upped the spiritual updates. We've put some faith formation and First Communion workshops online, and we're going to continue to do more of that. Father spoke about recording the Mass, and so many community videos, because our staff is still working, together with the community to provide services that are needed, even though, we're not able to come to church for Mass. One of the things that we've been able to do, and Dave kind of spoke to, how the hospitals are locked down. Well, the Red Cross came to us looking for a place to do a blood drive, because they can't be at the hospitals any longer. So that's been a great opportunity to serve the community, and to be able to let them come in 2 days a week and do their blood drive. They've had terrific results. It's been 2 months now. It's hard to believe that it's been 2 full months, and we will continue through the end of June. And in July, they'll move over to St. Augustine. So we're going to share that ministry even going forward, because it's been such a helpful thing in the community. We've been spending a lot of time cleaning and sanitizing the facilities, the church, the parish hall, the academy, getting ready for the students to come back. One of the reasons that we aren't going to be able to continue the blood drive through July is that we're very hopeful that we can be preparing for students to come back at the earliest that is going to be safe and allowed. And we've been, looking at new ways to be able to make the church safe. So we've purchased some sanitizing, a sanitizing machine that will hopefully help us be able to get the church sanitized in a quick manner, so that when we're allowed to come back to church and able to get back to the Mass schedule, we're able to keep the facility safe to the best of our ability, and get us back to whatever this new case of normal is going to be as soon as we can.
And with the sanitizing machine, can you share a little bit more about that? Because in many ways, it's kind of a game changer. Dave, this is one of the machines that a lot of the hospitals use. And to kind of give us a sense, so the sanitizing machine can be used by one person, and essentially sanitize the entire church in the course of an hour, and that would be the maximum, and that includes dry time. But Amy, you'd probably be better expressing what it does.
Well, I'm not so sure. I know I was there for the demo, and I have faith that it's going to help us, but the technical pieces of it, I might not get all of those correct. But basically, we're going to spray a sanitizing, I'll say chemical, but it's really not going to harm. It's not harmful. There is requirements for the operator to wear a mask and to wear safety glasses. But once it's been sprayed, it's 2 minutes till it dries. And the only reason it takes an hour is because we have a large church, and you need to walk through down the aisle and spray the pews. The chemical sticks to any surface, and what was very interesting as far as the demo goes is that it gets into places that are under the benches, and not just where it hits. It's airborne, and it's going to attach itself to the physical, the benches, the pews, anything that you might touch. So it really helps with the touch points, which have been a challenge. You know, people come in and sit in the pew and they may put their hand on the bench, and you know, their hand goes under the bench and leave germs there. Well, you know, we have to be very careful about every place that we clean, and this device will help us do a better job with that for less time.
So I think that gives us kind of a good sense of how we're trying to prepare for people to come back. You know, there's a lot of things that we don't know. But our thought is that over the next week to 10 days, that we'll be given permission to gradually come back to church. We don't know what that looks like yet. Bishop Lucia is going to share some of the parameters that's been shared with him. But as soon as we know those, that we'll share them with the parish, both parishes for that matter. You know, I think one of the things that's important for us to be mindful of is that we were really unprepared when we were told that we couldn't be in church. And I think moving forward, we want to be certain that we're not unprepared again. So let's say, for instance, something happens again, and there's issues with safety protocols, and they again ask us to have you know, either stay home or not be in church. I think we want to process what that means for us, and we want to ask ourselves, if that happens again, how do we ensure that we have small groups that can still celebrate Eucharist and receive Eucharist? We don't want to be unprepared again. You know, I think that if there's three things that I think I've come to appreciate more during these 2 months, I've had a renewed appreciation of faith, family, and freedom. And my three things: faith, family, and freedom. So faith, how important it is for us to receive the sacraments, and that we are a sacramental people. But for us as Catholics, the Eucharist is the source and summit of everything that we do. So for us not to gather and receive Eucharist is really significant. Secondly, family. You know, I'm the youngest of six, and all you know, my brother passed away last September, and I've come to a renewed appreciation of my own family and different ways that we need to connect, and to not go too long without having connected with my family, and that includes also close friends. And the third is freedom. I don't want to, you know, be a cliche, but you know, here we are. This is Memorial Day weekend. And it's an occasion where we, you know, celebrate and acknowledge all those service people that served our country. You know, we heard a lot about with the blood drive, Kyle, who lost his life, member from the Beeville community, and had a great conversation with his mom. But she said that, you know, freedom was a big part of his life. And, you know, I think that for us as Americans, sometimes I take that for granted. And I want to make sure that the freedoms that we enjoy, you know, from our Constitution are those things that, you know, we want to make sure that we celebrate and that we don't lose those things. So I think moving forward, we're going to be attentive to those things. We're going to do all that we can do to make sure that if anything like this happens again, that we have protocols in place that we won't be unable to receive Eucharist or to recognize ourselves as a Eucharistic church.
I think that we also should share that, you know, we have been preparing. We have a chairperson, Renee Romance, who's chairing a committee to strategize how to get us back to church, trying to imagine, you know, what it might be. Is it church in the parking lot? Is it, you know, some limited number of people in the church? Do we have to, you know, have people come in one door, go out the other? So, you know, we can't really make final decisions until the bishop gives us direction, but understand we have been kicking those things around and trying to understand how do we implement as quickly as possible, so that if we're able to get back to church, we can turn it around as quickly as possible and provide the opportunity. I think one of the things that we struggle with, that we would like to hear feedback from all of you, is, you know, what, you know, to Father's point of, you know, how to receive the Eucharist, how to participate. I know there's a fear factor out there. I know that from my mother and father-in-law that they're going to be concerned about returning to church. And yet I've seen the other side of the coin where people are starving for the Eucharist and they will take a chance to be in church just to be able to do that. And, we'd be interested to understand better how to serve you as a community, what your thought is. So if you have some thoughts about that and you want to send us an email, we'd be happy to hear it. Don't call the parish office. We're not there every day, but send an email to the St. Mary's Beeville address. We would love to hear, how can we better serve you in this time, and what's going to be important to you coming back to church.
One of the things that the bishop had said that he would continue over. So right now, there's a dispensation on the Sunday obligation to attend Mass. He said that dispensation will continue in the future. He doesn't know when it will end. So I think what that will mean for us is that we'll have the masses that we have on the weekend as we normally do, but we're also going to be mindful of the daily masses. So we had a 6:45 mass here at St. Mary's in the morning, and Tuesday we would have the novena. St. Augustine's has a 10 o'clock mass. We think that we may, either change the 6:45 to that evening at 5:30 or 6, or 6:30, so that people would have a chance to attend that mass every day. But if you have some thoughts on that, that would be great to hear that. And again, we would have both masses daily, both St. Augustine's and one here. But we think changing the mass time would allow for others who, for whatever reason, if they can't get to mass on the weekend or they feel uncomfortable because of safety issues, that we have a mass for them that allows them to participate. We also know that when we do come back to church, as Amy said, there are people that feel they may feel as though that they're in that vulnerable constituency, and they want to make sure that they are safe and that their health is not put at risk. We want to be mindful of the decisions that they're making, but we also recognize that they have a great desire to receive Eucharist. So, we have an excellent ministry of individuals that bring Eucharist to our homebound. Jackie James is unbelievable with regards to that. We also have a really strong nursing home presence that Bob Shalomi and his team are excellent. But we want to make sure that for those people that are home and don't feel safe coming to church because of their own particular health situations, that we bring them Eucharist. And that has to happen on a regular basis. And our hope is that it would be a significant number of people that would maybe volunteer to help us in that regard. And they would have to go through some training to make sure that that we understand and transmit the Eucharist in the dignity in which it should be transmitted. But we think that if people are watching Mass online or they're watching it on TV on Saturday or Sunday, that we want to make sure that we bring them Eucharist at some point during the end of that Mass or in that section of time. We don't have a lot of specifics, but the desire is to make sure that we bring people Eucharist. And Amy, I don't think we have any more any other aspects of that that's really been developed. Just it's conceptual.
Right. I would like to also just make people aware, school's still in session, and just a shout out to the Academy and the faculty. As much as we've had, very limited time to get ready to have the church closed, they had basically 24 hours to be prepared to learn new tools and be able to teach from home. And it just, I'm so grateful for all that they're doing to support the families, the families of our academy, and their willingness to jump in there and use new methods, like every other teacher in the nation is going through, and not miss a beat with the academics for the children.
That the Sister Bernadette was not all that computer savvy, and that's her own assessment. before the pandemic. And she's learned so much, she said. And she probably would not have, but given the chance to dive into this, if not for our current situation. But I think our teachers have been great. I think Sister Marsha's been outstanding. Aunt Keeney, great team. We're grateful for all the support staff, but in a really particular way, and you said this, Amy, to our families. We recognize that our Catholic school families make a choice to be at the academy, and we're grateful for that choice. And so we want to make sure that you know that we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that we reward that choice and that we provide the best education and the best environment for our Catholic youth. And we think that, we've got a pretty great faculty and a pretty great administrator and Sister Marcia and our great team and Aunt Keeney and the whole group. But our hope is that everybody else knows that and appreciates that. We are excited to be getting in next year. So, we have no doubts that school will be open and thriving. And if you know of anyone out there that may be interested in a Catholic school education, we'd encourage you to maybe have them give Amy or myself a call. And we'll do whatever we can to make sure that if it's possible, that we'll have them join us in our academy family. So thank you. Amy, do you want to tackle some of the questions?
Sure.
There was one question on the chat. Yeah.
I can't see that. Can you? My eyes are terrible.
It says the question is if there will be a 25% capacity allowed for masses at some point in the next phase of church openings, how would that work? Certainly first come, first serve would not work out well.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, we don't know. We don't know if it's 25%. I think the value that we want to make sure that we kind of embrace moving forward is that we want to give everyone a chance that wants to go to Mass to be at Mass. And so if that means, adding more Masses for Lou and myself, we'll do whatever, that we can do to make sure that that's possible. So I don't have an answer to that. When we hear more from the diocese, we'll probably have a little bit more of a sense of what's possible, what's not. But I think our desire is to make sure that everyone who wants to go to Mass and receive Eucharist has a chance to do that. And so, come hell or high water, pardon my language, we'll make sure that that's possible.
I would just kind of echo what Amy said earlier. I mean, the committee that is formed to help return and assimilate back into Mass schedules, they've done an amazing job. So I've seen the minutes from those meetings. I mean, and these are answers that we don't have yet, but it's a process, and they're really kind of I think they're doing amazing work to hashing out how that's going to happen. And if it's going to be a limited capacity, then obviously it's going to be equitable and fair, and so hats off to them. Yeah.
Yep. And there might be a value in having an additional town hall once we get the regs from the diocese about how it unfolds for us in a particular way coming back to church, and that would involve that group with Renee. So maybe there's a value in that, so we can at least share what the process is and maybe what some of the results are. But we need to wait for the diocese to give us a little bit of direction on that.
There was a question about, or suggestion about the elimination of missals in church. If we go back, can we just bring one with us instead of leaving them in the pew? Can we take them home? And that's certainly something we'll pass along to the committee as an option. Because if we were able to do that, then it might save cleaning if you could have your own personal missal out once in a while.
Just as an aside, I think it's a good idea for people, if you don't have a missal, to get one. I only say this: my dad would bring it to church, and it was his, So he had his readings in it, he had his prayer cards in it. There was a sense of identity with it. When he passed, he gave it to us as his kids. So even if you don't have a missile, I think it's a good idea. And if you want to learn how to get that, we can point you in the right direction from the office. So drop us an email. But I don't know what they're going to say about the missilettes. My guess is that there's going to probably be some restrictions, but we'll let the committee tackle it and we'll see what they come up with.
The good news is there's some, just from a science standpoint, we know that the virus does, can stay on surfaces for a few days, but there's not a lot of evidence that there's transmission. So, I mean, obviously the hygiene and wearing masks and, distancing somewhat are all proven to help spread, and so you still want to disinfect surfaces. So, but so we don't want to relax. I'm not implying we want to relax on that, but it may not be as transmissible from surfaces like a book, or as we thought it was a few months ago. We just don't know a lot about the virus. Well, I say we, people in the world. So,
Dave,
whoever's on this call must be offering some really significant prayers, because Bishop Lucia Amy said, just came out with guidelines about how we come back. So let's, if we could, table the questions about how we come back until we have a chance to kind of tackle the bishop's communication and share that with the committee. But why don't we'll commit ourselves to coming back and sharing that either in another town hall or some kind of communication next week, to give people a sense of what the bishop said and how we're going to seek to implement it. But they just came out, I think, within the past 10 minutes. Amy, would that be right?
Yeah, they should be in your inbox.
Mm-hmm.
That was great timing.
Yeah, it was. Dave, I was going to ask what your, from a medical perspective, what are your thoughts about a resurgence of the virus? That seems to be something that's in the news more the last few days, that there's an expectation that it's going to come back in a much more significant way. Is that what you've been hearing in the medical community or preparing for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge concern, and I'm not, I'm this epidemiology and infectious disease is very far from my field, but obviously I've been reading a lot about this, and I see what's happened, with the heroes at the hospitals, and at nursing homes and all the people caring for other people and staying safe. I think if we're careful about it in terms of the risk of resurgence is significant, but if we're careful about it, if we sort of maintain a new normal, whatever that is. So if that's going to be wearing masks, I'll just use this example. It's really not even having to do with the medical community, but I have concerns about my kids going back to college in the fall. So I know the colleges are having, meetings to try, that they're going to have a busy summer, to try to allow kids back, and that's even at our own local schools. So how do they accomplish that? So we don't want to shut society down, but it probably can be accomplished by just limiting larger classes and wearing masks and a lot of the stuff that can be done online. So maybe a lot more people that 6 months ago never worked from home, may be working from home more often. But then some of the stuff that can't be done from home can still be done, but in the smaller group setting and those kind of things. So I think that just those kind of efforts would minimize the resurgence. I hope that answers your question, but yeah.
So it sounds like some of the things we're doing to be more present online are going to continue, and we just need to keep working at that to make sure that we're going to be able to provide that for for our community as we go forward.
Yeah.
Amy, when it comes to faith formation, I think Kathy Mackey's done a really good job at that. And I think Catherine has partnered with Kathy in terms of youth ministry and making sure that all our young people are kind of moving in the same direction to get the best catechesis possible. So I applaud them. But when it comes to faith formation, I think that we will always have, moving forward, some type of distance learning. At least it's a possibility. And I think the same would hold true with any school, Dave. So whether it's the colleges or universities or high schools or our Catholic schools here in the academy here at St. Mary's, I think that distance learning is going to be a part of the curriculum moving forward. So for us, we just want to be mindful of that. And we want to recognize that there's different ways that young people learn, different ways that teachers teach. But we want to give our teachers the best tools possible to educate our young people. And that is true in the academy, and it's also true in our faith formation. But just to applaud the teachers, and again, Kathy Mackey and Catherine, for what they've done to kind of move us forward. Amy, any questions coming in?
No, I think we have.
We don't need to create it. So how about this? Why don't we just talk a little bit about finances, and then we can just share some thank yous, and then we'll close with a prayer. David, Amy, is that all right with you guys?
Yeah.
Right. And again, everybody, this is just the first time that we're doing this. This is a different vehicle. It's a different platform. We want to make sure that that everybody knows that our hope is to do this again. We're grateful that Meg has really helped us out with this, and I'm grateful to Amy and Dave for kind of pitching in. But if there's things that we didn't talk about or things that we didn't address, please let us know, and we'll do our best to address those in a really expedited manner. And we will have a chance to discern what the bishop has said about the guidelines. The committee will have that material, and they'll put something together in terms of a plan. And as soon as we have that, we'll share that with the community. But I want to say thank you to our finance council. Jack Corey is our chairman for the finance council, and to our business manager, Patty Pitts. Patty does a great job at both parishes. But our finance council and our pastoral council has really done yeoman's work to make sure that we're all kind of pulling in the same direction and recognizing that this is new for everybody. So I want to say thank you to Dave and to pastoral council, and also to Jack and the finance council, and to Patty. We have a great team, and we're just really, really, we're blessed to have them. And I'm grateful to the ministry team. They really have, they didn't expect to have this pandemic, and they adjusted what their ministry was to make sure that they were meeting the needs of all those that they connected with. So grateful for that. As many of you know, Amy, for lack of a better word, we call it a pastoral associate, but essentially it's like shared leadership. I'm grateful for what Amy does, and she said in the beginning that she has a to-do list for me. It's actually the opposite. I have a to-do list from Amy, but it's a blessing to work with her, and I'm grateful for her participation and her leadership. I also want to say something about Bob Tolomi, Bob and Penny. Many of you know that Penny was diagnosed with cancer not too long ago. And I had anointed Penny maybe 3 weeks ago. And in my conversations with Bob and Penny, specifically Bob, he wanted the parish to know how grateful he was for all the wonderful cards that they've received, and the well wishes and the prayers. So I wanted to make sure that I passed that on to all of you. As we get updates about Penny, we'll certainly share those as Bob wants us to, if he wants us to. But we pray for Bob and pray for Penny, and we're grateful for all that they do and their ministry together. And I'm grateful to the parish for being so responsive to their own needs, and to the place that they're in. They've really found a sense of hope from everyone who's shared their prayers and their thoughts, and their best wishes. So thank you for all those things. Amy and Dave, do you want to close with anything?
Well, I would just say it's Father, as you said earlier, it's appropriate that we're getting whiffs of some good news. It's as we come upon Memorial Day weekend. So I hope everybody has a good Memorial Day weekend, and keep praying.
Amy?
And certainly we're grateful for you and for Father Lou and Deacon Joe, and we're praying that you remain healthy and strong and are able to continue to shepherd us through the pandemic. These are tough times for everyone, and we're grateful. We're grateful for your vocation.
Thanks. You said that just like I wrote it for you. That was really great. You know, as we close, I always offer this. There's so many people in our lives that no one prays for. I know it might sound kind of silly, but I just ask us to be mindful of those people that no one prays for. I ask us to be mindful of all those people that are on the margins or in any way isolated. If you know of someone like that and you think that there's something that we can do to assist them, please let us know. And on behalf of Lou and myself and the ministry team, we want to make sure that everybody knows that we miss you, and that our desire is to have us all back to celebrate Eucharist, to be church. But in the interim, there's not a day that goes by that we don't want to be with you and that we don't pray for you. So we just ask for your prayers in return. And our hope is that, we're turning the corner on a lot of these things, and that when something like this happens again, that we'll be better prepared so that we can celebrate who we are as a Eucharistic community and understand the great importance of the Eucharist in our lives and in our parish. So maybe we close with a prayer. Amy or Dave? Can you do it?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day and the opportunity to meet with all of you. Thank you for all those that support this meeting and have helped us be present. We pray for all the caregivers and those essential workers in our community. We pray for our parishioners and ministers that they feel the presence of God in this time of uncertainty. For St. Mary's Academy, faculty, staff, and families as they adapt to the new methods and teach our students. For our church, as we navigate through the changes that are needed to keep our community safe. And again, for Father Cliff and Father Lou, that they remain healthy and strong and are able to continue to shepherd us through this pandemic. Amen.
And it goes without saying, please tell Joe thank you too. Joe has been a great help these past several weeks, and we really couldn't do it without him. So thanks to Joe as well. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.